Just absolute basics for your chart. You have Sun in Scorpio, Moon in Aries, and your rising in Cancer. So very, very high level. Your Sun is your ego, it's your life force. Your moon is your emotional processing, your body in some ways, and your ascendant is part of what you are moving towards, and also how people can perceive you. So it depends on, like, if you're really in alignment with your rising sign, then you could obviously present with those traits. So we tend to think of, in more of the pop astrology lens, it's like, oh, well, which sign are you? Oh, well, you don't seem like a Scorpio. Well, you might not seem like a Scorpio because you have a Cancer rising. And so you could come across more Cancerian. That is a possibility. But again, everyone's expression is different and it's the high, low vibration. Like, are you in functional behaviors of that sign? First thing that I noticed is you have a pocket of planets in Scorpio and Sagittarius. So they're in the two signs right next to each other. So you have Sun, Venus retrograde, Uranus, Neptune, Mercury, Mars. So you have three inner planets, personal planets, which are Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all in the same pocket. Plus, you have your sun there. And then you have two outer planets, which are always interesting to look at. But as far as understanding you more fundamentally as a person, you want to look at those inner planets and you have them all in the same spot. And in fact, based on your Placidus chart, interestingly enough, they're all in the fifth house. Through the whole sign chart, you have this stellium, so that's a group of three or more planets, of Scorpio in your fifth house, and then stellium in your sixth house. And what that would suggest, just really on the high level, I'll keep this broad here, is that you have an extra concentration of energy in those two life areas. And because they're your personal planets, especially so. So you would expect that through your life, there would be a lot of themes or emphasis around the fifth and sixth house. For fifth house, we are talking about play, creativity, children, pleasure. It can also be dating, just like having fun, self expression. So you have your sun there, which wants to express and wants to be seen. So that's extra emphasized. And then you also have Venus there, which is very much into beauty and creativity. However, it is retrograde. So it means in some ways it could be slightly inhibited, or you could have blocks to your creative flow at times. And then for your sixth house, the sixth house has to do with balance, routine. What's your day-to-day schedule? Um, your job. So what do you do for work? How are you serving? How are you contributing at any given time? It also contains pets and physical health. So not mental health, physical. So just the body. And it has bad fortune, like illness, injury, things like that. So if you have a lot of placements in there, specifically if you have Mars in your sixth house, which you do, it could suggest being especially accident prone, or like having chronic illnesses. And you also have Mercury there as well. So that could suggest that you think about, you talk about health, or animals, or your schedule, and like figuring things out and creating balance. And that could be something that weighs on you. Sounds like my past, to be honest. Specifically with the sixth house, moving into another phase, more relaxed and spontaneous. So it sounds like you're trying to lean into the fifth house or just create more balance in that sixth house. So that makes a lot of sense. So again, if you have a lot of energy here, it would make sense that this feels familiar. This feels like tale as old as time. This is something that I have been dealing with, that I'm navigating, that I'm shifting. Potentially challenges around setting boundaries, because Cancer is a caretaker. It wants to support, it wants to help other people. And so having all of that energy concentrated in that sixth house, which in some ways represents balance as well, and the relationships with others as far as what you are giving, um, that also tends to crop up. Definitely dominant in Cancer. Yeah. Zero boundaries. Yeah, it's something that I didn't realize about myself, and I have increasingly learned, oh, so like this thing is happening and I'm upset about it, and it's because I didn't set a boundary with myself or with other people. So now I'm so aware of it. It doesn't always mean that I stick to them well, but I at least like know it's a thing. So I have found that that is pretty consistently a pattern for people with a lot of Cancer placements, but especially with North Node or South Node or Cancer risings. Another Scorpio Sun. Where's your moon? Where is it? Oh, Aquarius Moon and Scorpio Rising. So we have a double Scorpio plus a big old stellium in there. 4 planets plus rising sign. Oh, and your Venus is on almost exactly on your ascendant. Life area, general life setting up routine. Okay, so we have a theme here. For anyone who attends my psychic reading classes, this should be a surprise to no one because there always ends up being themes about what I do readings for, like for the collective readings, but when I have the individual readings, like because I intuitively pick people from the chat and then they end up being in kind of a similar vein or even needing each other's lessons. So interesting. So setting up routine. So of course for routine, we're going to want to look at the 6th house, but we could also look at the 3rd house as well because it's like daily rituals. So depending on what kind of routines you want. Oh my gosh, I actually love this. This makes a significant amount of sense given that you are curious to make improvements in this area because you have your North Node in Aries at 0 degrees. So more to say on that in a second. And you also have Jupiter retrograde in there. So just to break that down a little bit. Setting up more routines include more self-care and rest. Yes. Okay. 6th house, this is where we want to be. You have Jupiter in your 6th house. And what that suggests is that you have luck, you have opportunity, you have encouragement for growth in this area of life. Now it is retrograde. So because it was in retrograde motion on the day that you were born, it suggests having difficulty with just being able to blossom in this area of life. So you want to be able to set up a routine. You feel inspired, you feel optimistic. It's something that you really want to do, you know you should do, but there's kind of issues with it always being able to stick or land, or maybe you have like too big of a vision or too small of a vision, or like there's some sort of misalignment with actually making it the reality. But symbolically, the North Node is about your purpose. It's about where your energy is calling you towards. So not only do you have that Jupiter like, hey, you should be expanding here, but you may have difficulty with it. You have your North Node, which is saying this is so important that you're going to spend your whole life working towards this and like trying to achieve this and trying to improve in this area. So it is no surprise that you are zeroing in on this. Something of note I would recommend you doing. We are currently in a Pisces-Virgo eclipse series. Eclipse series tend to last around a year and a half, but the one before was North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra. So you just had a nodal return. So you can look back at the time when the North Node was in Aries and see what changes have you made. Did you make some significant improvements, but now you're just like looking to do more and kind of the dial has shifted? But typically during those nodal returns, especially when you have that North Node in that area, it's suggesting that you would have made some really big progress. It's the expectation for you in your life to be working on balance and trying to find it. But you could pay attention to what's happening. Like anytime any planet is moving through that sign of Aries, being prepared, like, oh, this might really disrupt it, or not being as hard on yourself if you feel like, oh, why can't I just relax? Because let's state the obvious here. You have Aries, and Aries wants to act and it wants to do things and it wants to be fired up. So inherently, you want to relax, but your natal placement, the sign that is in this area of life, is so active. So there is inherently attention plus the other placements that I just mentioned. And even if you said, oh, well, what about if, Venus moved through that sign? That's a planet that represents ease. Venus doesn't like to be in Aries. It was actually there earlier this year. So that could be another window of time to look back at. But I also have that placement. But it doesn't necessarily support it in the way that you would want it to. So it is a bit of a tricky situation. What you would want to watch is what Mars is doing just at any given point. Like, where is Mars floating around in the sky? Because Mars rules Aries. So it's this area of your chart that you want to rest, but inherently there's a resistance to rest. So if you can pay attention to where is Mars moving, maybe it's just how I'm focusing my and directing my energy. And just thinking about where you're channeling your energy so that you can take the initiative, Mars as an initiator, in order to create the space that you need. But yeah, I guess the question for you, and you can answer it if you'd like, or just ask yourself as the rhetorical one, what do you envision rest looking like? What do you want your self-care to look like? Because my suggestion always is to look at your moon sign. Your moon sign is in Aquarius, and it's actually sextiling almost exactly your north node. So there is a connection between that sixth house and your moon, extra than normally it would be. So you'd want to think about, what does Aquarius need to rest? And Aquarius, it is action oriented. Like, Aquarius is very intellectual, wants to learn, wants to improve things, wants to upend and take action. So you have a lot of placements in your chart. Like, actually, Aquarius is very antithetical to having routine, because it's like, let's do this now, let's do that now. So you you kind of have some building blocks that don't necessarily support having something that is super consistent. But if you just understand that about yourself, then you can create frameworks, which Aquarius loves, create frameworks so that you can move around within them and have the variability that Aries and Aquarius want, but then set you up so that you can actually feel that you are at ease. That's really what we're going for, is just being at ease, given everything else that's kind of shifting around. Let me know if you have any questions. It's definitely like a good example of how complex our charts can be, because they don't always give us the most simple answer. And even in this example, like, oh, okay, I can look at the sixth house, but based on the energy that's in there, based on what's happening elsewhere, based on what's happening with your moon. And there's even more than, I'm sure I could keep going and going, but just with those 3 to 4 placements alone, they give you a lot of intel around what you could lean towards. And I will note, like, for Aquarius, because Aquarius like wants to study and like learn information and learn new things, new technology. What's the latest? Somebody on the outside might look at that and go, well, that you're not relaxing. You're doing stuff all the time. Like, you're trying to like get a bunch of information and new things. That's not relaxing. I get told that because I am a Virgo moon. So I have some similar tendencies where my moon, my self-care sometimes is action oriented. And so then it's just shedding that of like, it doesn't matter if that's not what we think self-care and relaxation looks like. It's just, does it make you feel calm? Does it make you feel like you're floating in time, like time is flying, you're in a flow state? Go for that. And even if that means you're doing an activity, that's totally okay. It doesn't have to be that your self-care is going to the spa. As long as your body is at rest in some way, which I think you can do with Aquarius. Again, it could be that you're sitting and you're reading. You're learning something, but you're sitting. And that's you relaxing, and it's not you running around doing things. And that could be like a good compromise that tends to your moon, but then allows your body not to be like amplified. Gemini Sun, also 0 degrees Aquarius Moon. So what I was just saying, happy, applies to you in not all of it, but in some ways about the self-care piece. And then also rising in Scorpio. We have a big Scorpio theme today. Like, what are the odds of that? Oh gosh. Okay, number one, absolute number one thing for you, Emily, is that you have your nodal return happening right now. You have your North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. That is the eclipse series we are going through right now. So if you do not know anything about this eclipse series, definitely go to my YouTube channel, watch that video. You can see a write-up of it on my blog so you can get some details. And I also did a class on the eclipse, so it would have dropped the day before, so the 6th. So you can hear about the Pisces eclipse. And then I'll be doing another one in my class next week, next Wednesday. I'm going to be talking about that Virgo eclipse. You are going to want to pay absolute special attention because we have already been in this eclipse series. So again, I give the full timeline on my blog so you can read it and look at the dates. But this is a really pivotal time, one for anyone who has Pisces and Virgo placements, but you have it like extra special because you have the nodal return. So it means like you're really being pushed towards that Piscean energy. So intuition, creativity, compassion, sensitivity, the higher vibrational side, not the escapism and detachment, delusion, all that. The high vibrational side. And then away from the lower vibrational side of Virgo. So trying to get rid of perfectionism and wanting control and order around things. So that is a journey that everybody is going through, but because it is baked into your chart, it's naturally a part of who you are and it's like super amplified. This process started a year ago, almost exactly, September 17th of last year, and is going until February 2027. So we're pretty much at the halfway point. So a really great time for you to learn about this because you can reflect back on what's been happening over the last year, and then you can start forecasting out the year and a half of what we have left. So that means you're also being called towards play, pleasure. We keep, interestingly enough, in all these readings, we're talking about some of the same things: play, pleasure, creativity, enjoyment. That could support with some of that self-esteem that you're talking about. When you talk about self-worth, we want to focus on the second house, but your self-expression could really support with your self-esteem. So the expression could be speaking, creating, dancing, art, whatever it is. That's something that you could lean into and maybe it would support your self-esteem. And then relationships, on the friendship side, you could experience shedding of friendships. Maybe you already have in the last year, but it's reevaluating, okay, which friends are not really aligned or not supporting me on this mission for me to go on, plus your lifelong mission of being that Scorpio rising as well. Are they not thoughtful and considerate enough? Are they not organized? Are they not compassionate? Are they not trying to back you up and help make you a better person? That's the Virgo energy. So if you would be thinking about getting rid of some friendships for people that are not supporting you to be the best version of yourself and to really encourage you to grow. So kind of interconnected with the things that you just talked about or you were raising. And if you mean relationships as in romantic relationships, that also can be fifth house because we have dating in there. So this could be a time where maybe you have some activity in that department because you have that North Node energy. You could be calling in. That's kind of like the number one signature for the nodal return is that you call in people. Specifically, you could start meeting a lot of Pisces people that are teaching you about this area of life, this fifth house area. So that would actually be an expectation. Maybe you've already met some people already, but you got another year and a half ahead of you where you could keep meeting more people, and that could help you to express, play, have fun, you know, be in relationships, but kind of in like the casual, just again, like playful way. Seems like friends are getting rid of me. So this is again the thing. The shedding, and I say this to everyone who's going through Saturn returns as well. Saturn returns, nodal returns. When you have that, Saturn is trimming and getting rid of, it doesn't always feel great when it's happening. Even if it didn't feel like it was on your terms, you might then recognize as you are moving towards the Pisces energy, as you're calling in people that are representing play, joy, supporting you, uplifting you, that you could then recognize, you know what, like those really weren't good quality friends, and like good riddance. And I'm actually glad that they have exited stage left. And I have these new people that have come in to fill that void that they left. So again, this is still in progress for you. So I would, keep that in mind. There is still an entire year and a half. You're like only at almost the halfway point of this journey. So there is more road ahead of you, but you want to reorient around what you're moving towards. And then it kind of makes you feel a little bit better about like the things that you are shedding, but shedding is an expectation. It's part of the process. And in this situation, it's going to be people. It's going to be people going, people exiting your circle. It could be by choice, like, oh, I'm going to leave this club or I'm going to leave this community. And sometimes it could be other people. But just keeping your eye on the prize, which is thinking about the Pisces energy, thinking about that fifth house energy, your strengths. So things that like you're naturally like good at or could be leaning into more. You have your Jupiter in your seventh house in Taurus. So grounded, so supportive. So like if you are one seeking a relationship as in a romantic relationship, those are traits that you want to look for in a partner. And that you can also embody, mostly air and then earth energy. So having a relationship that feels safe, that feels secure, that feels really supported, not super rushed, not rushing into anything. You can learn a lot from your relationships, as in the serious, the long-term relationships. Yeah, you do. Interestingly enough, I'll just say this, you do have a lot of retrograde planets. It's not a negative, it's just something to notice that it could pick up on maybe why you feel that you have some different roadblocks. The reason I'm saying that, because the other place I'd want to look is, oh, well, what do you have for your Venus side? Your Venus is also retrograde, which was the case for a few of the people that we talked to today. So you have your personal planets and you have Chiron all in Gemini, eighth house. So there's there's a lot of things to unpack in this chart, I will say. So I think what you have described to me checks out with what I see here. Things not necessarily being communicated clearly, the shedding in the specific areas that we've discussed. If you've ever felt like you're kind of an oddball or odd one out, there's some representation for that too. Or just that you've had to deal with some maybe heavier topics. Maybe you're comfortable with them, or maybe you feel brought down by them. There's a lot of signatures for that in your chart as well. Lessons around your communication. That's kind of a theme as well. Like, how can you speak clearly, connect clearly, share your truth, act on it as well, express those. That's like I would say that's like the biggest theme here. Your strength, if you will, is that you have so much energy in different realms of communication, expression, relationship building. You don't actually need to rely on other people, but when you have the kind of wind at your sails, you have the stable relationships, friends that are looking to elevate you, then those are keys that kind of slot into place that then can allow you to overcome some of that resistance energy that you have in the retrogrades throughout your chart. I knew mine would be a doozy. There's always a lot to unpack, and me being an odd. Okay. So again, for anybody, Emily included, if you want, because this is, I'll tell you, like, this to me is like, oh, this is like a juicy chart. There's like a lot of stuff in there that's really interesting. Um, everyone's chart's interesting, but there's a lot of components. Just in what you've talked about, plus if I was actually sitting and like looking at it for longer. So to that point, if anybody is interested in receiving the full length reading, all my readings, except for the synastry one, which I have longer, all the other astrology readings I have are an hour. So it's like a full deep dive. I prepare a whole slide deck. It has visuals, send you the recording of the class and the slide deck itself. So there's more of an opportunity to like really go deep, and at whatever level you're interested, I'll meet you where you are on your knowledge base. So do not fret if you're like, I'm a beginner, I don't even know like what the sun is. That's fine. Because as long as you let me know in the intake form, which I include as a question, like what's your level of experience? Is there anything that you want me to know? If you're like, I know nothing, then great. I'll just operate from that lens. And if you know more, then I will meet you again where you are, and you can ask as many questions as you would like. And I always keep my email open. So as people are really processing it, if you have additional questions afterwards, then happy to have a back and forth and break it down a little bit more. Really, my objective in teaching these classes on Insight Timer, providing the readings, creating the educational resources that I have in my shop are to decode this, because it is really complicated. And every single person is different, and then every transit and every event that's happening is different, and so we can see ourselves through different ways. We always are evolving as people. We have new lessons, new obstacles that are presented. How can we use astrology as a tool to navigate? So the next time XYZ happens, or we know that this transit is happening, or Emily knows, hey, if I'm at peace with the fact that I can just expect I might just have some people exiting my life or some friends that I want to veto, and knowing that for an entire year ahead, also all of a sudden that reframing is like, okay, I can be more at peace with it, and then I can focus on other things. Where without that information, Emily might be walking around like, well, this is a bummer, like this is so upsetting. But if it's like, okay, well, this is kind of dictated within your chart as this is a pattern, this is something you could expect, it gives you a little reassurance and a sense of direction of what you could do to adjust. And then you can try, see what works, see what connects, and then go from there.